How's your mom?
She's
doing okay with the allergy thing?
We still don't know what is going on. I had a company come out and try to clean the piss out of the car. They were unsuccessful. It smelled good for like a day, and then it returned.
Maybe you can donate it to one of those like fishing preserves that sink cars for like fish to make homes in or whatever.
There's one of those car drops like at one of the lakes around here in the winter. I can just donate it for that.
There you go.
Yeah. Just put bets on when it'll fall through the ice. Oh. Now, I'm still hopeful I can resurrect it, because I need it for at least a little longer before I try to sell it again. And it's not selling right now if I have that smell in it. Ooh.
I mean, I guess you could hope someone who wants to buy it, like someone who wants to buy a Jeep and also doesn't have a nose.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
tall order.
That would I don't know. That could be one upside to not having like a nose, like being unable to smell specifically. Yeah, because like all those things that people would like, they're dirt cheap that people wouldn't want to screw with, but you don't have a nose, so like imagine how cheap like land near a landfill must be. No one wants to live near there, or like a pig farm.
What I need to do is find someone who has COVID, like a real bad case, but is looking for an old car.
And he's like, I don't know what pee smell you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's on you, man.
Interested buyers must test positive. But no, otherwise, they're still trying to figure out what's going on with her. They don't know yet everything, so it's a process.
That sucks.
It's life. I mean, no more attacks have happened, so that's something.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So,
got a couple things set up. Other than that, how you liking the new place?
It's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I was dog sitting my sister's dog for a while, and he's gone back to stay with my sister. So it's been a little lonely past couple days, but it's pretty good. I had my first I guess co-op meeting, I guess you'd call it. Like it's like somewhere across between like a co-op and like an HOA, but I guess it's more of a co-op. Anyway, because people weren't sorting their trash correctly, so we had to have a seminar from the people from the trash pickup to teach everyone how to properly sort their trash. And I learned that my neighborhood, or my co-op, or my BRF as we call them here in Sweden, is predominantly older people, which I kind of suspected to begin with, but was confirmed by this meeting. But the person who was giving this seminar on how to sort garbage normally teaches like the children at like the children's museum on how to sort garbage.
Sure.
And I don't think she changed the syllabus much for this lesson.
Awesome.
It was a lot of like holding placards and, you know, brightly colored objects and smiling, few sing-song mnemonics.
Oh, God.
You know.
Hey, I mean, that's how you keep something in your head there. A little song to go with it.
That's true.
Stay with you for life.
I'm pretty fastidious about sorting my garbage correctly. I don't know if you could have guessed that from.
No, what? No.
So, this was not something I really necessarily needed.
I desperately need that, though. It's not that, like, I don't sort my garbage. I don't know how to properly sort my garbage is the issue. Like, recycling here gets really confusing. And then, like, a year ago, they changed, like, what can and can't be. But none of the identifiers have changed. And I'm like, I don't know what a difference between a fucking 4 and a 7 is, or any of this
here it's a lot easier. It's just you know, you sort everything. Like, I think so, like in Sweden, almost everything gets like recycled, you know, or at least sorted as recycling. So I have like my bin for compost, like compostable things. Then you have plastic, paper, glass, metal, and then a bunch of other different things, little smaller ones. But most of my garbage is one of those three things. And then there's like anything that doesn't really fall into any of those recyclable things is generally like brennbart, as they call it here, which is like burnables. So like most of like this entire the town I live in is heated entirely by the garbage that is burnt. So the garbage gets burnt, it boils water, the water gets pumped through pipes under the roads to all the different houses. It comes in my radiator, which is a nice setup, but that does mean you have to like sort the garbage properly. Also, that news story about Sweden importing garbage from Norway, that was a big deal a few years ago. That was because of that, because we need, we need to burn garbage to heat our houses. So
that's a fantastic system. There's no flaw in that loop.
Well, it works so far.
Yeah. Burnable garbage is like the least offensive of garbages these days, so that one will
yeah, well,
stick
and it gets filtered all to hell too. Like there are so many different, like I think like a lot of American incinerators don't use any, like they use very minimal like filtration systems and stuff like that. And here also like the relative low population means that like, you know, it's not millions of people burning their garbage, which I imagine would be a much worse option. Also, the compost stuff emits methane, and they use the methane to run the buses. So,
God fucking damn it! That's
some
useful.
Of the buses, not all of them.
That's useful.
No. Take pride in our garbage dealing with here. Apparently,
I wish we could do that here, but the mob won't let us. I just realized that could have been a good transition for today's episode. I just kind of let that one go by.
Yeah.
Today's
episode being Yakuza 4 remastered.
Hey, yes.
On here, The Save State, a podcast that we are doing.
Yes,
podcast
right now.
We talk about video game. This is morning podcast energy. This is
how we always like introduce it. I don't know what you mean.
Coffee and breakfast podcast.
Oh, now I want like a scone or something.
Podcast.
I've just done the coffee.
I had toast. So.
Did you have
you ever do that?
Like a toast sandwich?
You have like a couple pieces of toast, then you're like, I kind of want some more toast, so you have another couple pieces of toast. And you can only have like 2 pieces of toast at a time because you can't justify making 1 piece of toast. So really what you actually wanted was 3 pieces of toast. Yeah. But you ate 4 pieces of toast. Now you kind of hate yourself.
I've done that a couple times, and I was going to say I almost always regret it. One, because, butter. Like now you've had just more butter. You've basically eaten like 2 tablespoons of butter at least in your morning, which for a lactose intolerant person like me, not great. So now you have 2 counteracting elements going on in your stomach. One that just wants to paste and block everything, and the other that wants to get out of you as fast as possible. And
have you tried a perfect storm. Non-plant or non-dairy based margarines?
How fucking dare you? I like myself, sir.
No. Some of them were decent. I don't know. I ate. I mean, growing up, I lived with vegans for a long time, and I ate, plant-based margarines for a long time.
I did too. Growing up, my food was mostly fake because it was all Snackwells and Weight Watchers, and I can't believe it's not. A lot of those
still have have some dairy in them. They're not.
Sure. Well, we didn't know I was lactose intolerant back then. They just thought I was a gross monster who shit all the time.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, they didn't bother to take me to a doctor for that. No, I do sometimes do mayo on my toast though instead of butter. I'll do a little smear of mayo with some salt and pepper. It's pretty good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Plain toast with mayonnaise, not the whitest food I've ever heard of.
But close. The face you made is the face I usually get from people when I describe that. That's fine.
It could be worse. I mean, I've heard worse things.
About breakfast?
Oh, just things people have put on toast.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Also, Sweden's a country where people put fish paste on like everything, so you can only get so gross.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how far does that commitment go? Is that like a breakfast thing still? Like, you're down in some like rank fish for breakfast?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be saying not. It's not like the surströmming thing, which is like the really stinky, gross fish that comes in cans. That is only eaten very rarely. That's usually you only eat that outdoors, and it's kind of like it's like a special occasion, and one that is not something a lot of people like. It's increasingly uncommon. But the other stuff, like the pickled herring and the stuff that doesn't actually stink up the entire house, that stuff some people eat regularly, yeah.
I could see pickled herring, like the herring and sour cream. I guess I could see that as like a late morning breakfast food, not with coffee. Like there's no world where I'm eating that while drinking coffee.
Boiled eggs with like salmon, or like not salmon roe, but like caviar. Like there's a thing we call it caviar here, but it's like fish egg paste. That
sure.
You put that on some egg, like boiled egg. That's a pretty common breakfast here, especially among older people. So, or like you can get like herring paste that you just put on a piece of bread, or that aforementioned caviar. You could also get that caviar stuff flavored with things. So you can get cheese flavored fish paste.
What?
Put on your
what? Like, I know it's not American Cheese Whiz cheese flavor, but that's what I'm picturing.
It's not dissimilar, no.
Oh God.
I mean,
God.
If you want a flavor of fish egg paste, you can find it here. Dill, cheese, ham, chicken, they do it all.
I don't understand, like, the dill, yeah, but I don't get why you'd want it to taste like ham. That can't be real. I mean,
a lot of these things are all from like back in the day when like Sweden wasn't always this like fairly wealthy country that was like.
Yes, I'm aware of your feelings on the history of Sweden, and is it Finland that you guys have this everlasting beef with?
No, it's hard. That's a bigger thing that I will talk about another time. But a lot of like the traditional Swedish foods are based on the idea that people didn't always have a ton of money for fresh food and fresh vegetables, or they didn't have access to them. So that's why there's a lot of Swedish food that's preserved fish. It's
like when you see the cooking books from wartime, like rationing, and everything's in gelatin.
Yeah, stuff like that. Or like my grandma tells about like, oh, we had this, if we really had enough money, like my grandmother would buy like beef tomatoes, and she'd just make a casserole out of beef tomatoes. Like that was just like a special occasion thing.
Sure.
So,
isn't that just tomato sauce with the skin on still, I guess?
Well, like you layer it with like cheese and like cream or milk or something like that.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought it was like really like full on 1920s. Like we're just putting tomatoes in a casserole dish and baking it in the oven, pretending like it's a normal meal.
I'm sure that was the thing too. Just like some salt on some tomatoes.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah. I don't really partake much of the fish paste myself. I find it very salty. It's okay sometimes mixed in with something on like a, like in a sandwich, but by and large,
I'm just picturing anchovy paste at that point then, like with the saltness of it.
Yeah, the saltiness is probably pretty similar. Anyway, speaking of a nation of people who eat a lot of fish, Japan.
Hey.
Which is the setting for this, the video game we played.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Yakuza 4.
Yakuza 4.
Yes, this is the fifth one in chronologically.
Yes.
In the series of Yakuza games.
Yep.
So this one, unlike so Yakuza, if you haven't listened to any of our other previous Yakuza episodes, Yakuza is a 3D open world beat 'em up type game that's heavily focused on storytelling, specifically kind of gangsters in Japan storytelling.
You got it.
And the 4 is, unlike most of them, set just in the one neighborhood city in Tokyo, a fictionalized version of a real red light district. And unlike most, this one has several characters that you play as, instead of just the one main character. What did you think of that, going from the other ones where you really just played as Kiryu to playing as multiple different characters?
It was a little jarring at first, because I kept waiting for when's Kiryu coming up, and now everyone's, you get these flashbacks to the 80s, 1985, where they're trying to, go into the story, and I think they pulled it off at the end, because it all does kind of come back into focus as you play through each person's story. They do tie them all together in a good way, although the end has some issues to it we can get to later. But I liked most of it as far as playing each character. Yeah, it was fine. This wasn't, I think, the strongest in the Yakuzas, maybe just based, on my opinion, just because it didn't feel like the others because you're not Kiryu, but I'm curious to see where they go with these characters.
Well, I would say there's only one of you only really have to worry about a couple of these characters going forward. Well, actually, no, there's only 4 of them. I think Tanemura is the only one that doesn't show up later again.
That's fine. He's my least favorite of all the characters.
I will say that the character for the Yakuza spin-off Judgment series kind of feels like Tanemura may have been like the blueprint, like the prototype version for that character. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes when we play those games. To
be clear, I don't dislike Tanemura because of his character arc and story. It's his combat, just specifically the way his fighting style works. It seems like it was going to be the coolest because it's all this. I don't think this is right. Judo. Is it the one where you constantly use your opponent's weight and energy against them?
I think that's right, yeah.
Not in the mystical way, but you know what I mean. I thought that was good. Oh, this is going to be great. It's all this countering and parrying system, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And it wasn't fun at all because the moment you missed, you just ate shit. You had so little health. Yeah, he's very light. Most of his regular attacks were very light and floaty kind of attacks, and most of it came from the counters and the throws, like you said. Yep. So basically, this was the first game I think where you had multiple styles of combat, which were based on each different character. So Kiryu has the same style he had in 3 and previous games. Akiyama, I think, probably had my favorite style. It's a very fast, kick-based combat style. And then you have the what's his name, Sajima. Yeah, my favorite, which is much more. Yeah, just you don't bother countering, or you just big hard punches and lots of throwing things. A lot of charged attacks that take a ridiculous amount of time to charge up, but when they connect, oh my god, just so much damage. And I think that they did a really good job of having multiple different combat styles that all played differently, and they all reflected the personality of the character that they corresponded to. I think that Saijima's character is a very blunt, aggressive person. He has this similar style of combat. Tanemura was much more a social person, a much more I won't say manipulative. What's a good way of saying manipulative? Calculating. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, something like that, which I think corresponded to his combat, and I think they did a good job with that. I personally, by the way, I think this one might be my favorite of them, of the Yakuza
like, I think this is the most cohesive story. Like, I think that there aren't a lot of, like, because, like I said, it does kind of start off with 4 separate stories that all end up meeting toward the end. And I think they do a good job of, like, tying up the loose ends. There isn't, like, a lot of, like, there's some, like, twists and your usual kind of, like, out of the blue characters like you get with Yakuza games. But I don't think they went too extreme with it. Like, a lot of it seemed, I don't want to say expected, but within the realm of...
Grounded.
Like, grounded. There you go. Thank you. And... like the way, like another thing I like about it is the way all these different characters have to, even though they're in the same city, they all maneuver around the city in different ways because they have different personalities. Like Tanemura, because he comes from a multi-ethnic background, he can get into like the enclaves of non-Japanese people, and he can, like, that's another part of the city that's only open to him. Seijima is a fugitive, so he spends a lot of time in the sewers.
And the
he befriends like homeless people. Yeah, same thing. The rooftops, and I think that you always felt like I talked about how in Zero, like, it felt like it wasn't just that you were necessarily playing as Kiryu and Majima, but like the game changed around Kiryu and Majima. Like, even like events of the story felt like they were like cinematically different because they were like which character's perspective they were coming from. Like, there are scenes in Zero where I think that the cinematography takes on a much more extreme and exaggerated style because Majima is a much more, like, I don't want to say romantic person, but he views the world in much more emotional extremes, versus Kiryu, who is much more based on like his code of honor and ethics and stuff like that. And I think that this game does that. It maybe doesn't do it to the extent and as well as Zero did it, because it has 4 characters instead of 2, and it's harder to do that quite as well. But I really liked the way that even though you felt like you were in the same place, every time you switch characters, you felt like you were seeing the same place through a different lens. Yep.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the way you had to traverse the combat system for each character being, tailored to that character, I think that all reinforced that. They did a great job with that. That's what I meant when I was saying that they do tie all the stories in at the end, as you see through each character's viewpoint. The biggest gripe I had with that, if it's not getting ahead too much, is that final boss fight at the end.
So what problems did you have with the boss fight without spoiling any storyline?
It was when you're up against what's the name of the cop, the detective?
Is it the last guy?
Yeah.
The one that Tanemura has to fight.
Yep.
Yeah. So like
that whole fight sequence is so fucking annoying.
I think that maybe I had more luck with the Tanemura's fighting style, or maybe I leveled it more or something, but I actually found that to be a not difficult fight. But that also, that could just be like the way I played it. I actually don't remember having that much trouble with it. But
interesting.
But I also understand, like, maybe you did with that, because like in other games, like spoilers for Yakuza 5. There's 5 characters. Well, not really spoilers, but there's 5 characters in Yakuza 5, and there's one character's combat style in 5 that I really didn't click with either, and I definitely had trouble with the last boss. I think similarly because of that.
Interesting. Yeah, it felt like it broke up the pace way too much from the rest of the fights and again, this was just obviously me having more difficulty with it than you did. Maybe people don't find this one as hard, but it took me multiple tries to get through that one.
Interesting.
I hadn't been like prepared enough with items. I just kept getting my ass handed to me. I mean, every time you even try to strike him, 8 guys just immediately start flailing at you, and
right, yeah,
it was so rough.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's also it's weird that kind of ends with like Tanemura kind of gets the, not to like spoil stuff because I don't think this is entirely a spoiler, but the focus of the story ends a lot with Tanemura as opposed to Kiryu Kiryu, who's ostensibly the primary character of the series, and like Tanemura is one that doesn't go on to show up ever. So it is weird that he ends up kind of being like the end boss fight there. That's a bit of a strange story beat. But another thing I like about the way they did these characters is that because they kind of shift the focus away from Kiryu, when Kiryu does show up, his perspective seems like something that's needed, as opposed to like when Kiryu shows up, you're like, all right, okay, now we can finally have him here. He knows what do. He's not going to be as I think of Kiryu kind of in the same way I think of like Wolverine or Geralt of Rivia as characters, in that they are at their best when they are playing off other characters. Like they have fairly similar kind of these gruff, masculine, like paragons of masculinity kind of like personality types. Yep. And I don't mean that necessarily negatively. I would say like the less toxic aspects of masculinity, if not the non-toxic parts. I think that they exist in that area, but especially with Kiryu, where you had 3 games at this point already, where he's or 2 or 3 or 2, depending on what order 4, depending on how you're playing it. That gets a little stale, and when you inject it into the story as the story is already in progress, like they did in 4, and spoilers, they do in 5. Again, not really a spoiler, just pointing ahead to 5. I feel like it makes that much more fresh, and I appreciate Kiryu's presence more. Having recently replayed 6, like I kind of miss 4 and 5 for that aspect, because I think you get a little too much undiluted Kiryu in 6, and it kind of leaves that like one taste in your mouth. It's a little much.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, I'm just waiting for the game that we get to play as Majima again. He was a little. Oh boy, he was weird in this one. His character felt a little off, and I don't know if that's just because they were trying to do a different tonal change, but he was so serious in this. I kept waiting for crazy Majima to come out, and I couldn't quite figure out what their intention was there.
So you have to remember, like, the Majima in this Zero was not a thing when this game was made.
Sure.
So Zero would have come out after 5. So, like, the story arc that Majima has in 1 and 2 is, like, him going from, like, the mad dog character to being, like, a responsible officer of the clan.
Yeah.
And so, like, also, I kind of think the writers just didn't know what to do with him. Like, I think, like, he was a fan favorite, but, like, he kind of run his course, and I kind of like giving him that stuff to play with Saejima. I think was good, but at the same time, going forward, you also see less and less of Majima, and I think they might have just kind of run out of stuff to do with his character. I mean, of course, Zero came out after this, and that's where most of his characterization comes from. So, but I think that's a big part of it. Is also just like so much of like Majima's personality to the modern player is based off of Zero. And then the other thing to remember is that when 4 came out, 1 and 2 were PlayStation 2 games that weren't quite as well received as the PlayStation 3, 4, and 5. So to a lot of players, they probably didn't even know much about Majima at all, So his role is just kind of another officer, kind of makes more sense. Not that I'm not disappointed, because, I mean, obviously I would like more Majima in every game.
Yeah. I was excited in the beginning when it looked like there was going to be a lot more Majima story on Saejima's side. And, I mean, there was a good amount, but it wasn't enough. I mean, if I'm being honest, I could have just stayed in prison and played all of the Yakuza game in prison with Saejima, and I would have actually been very happy. That entire breakout was actually a little disappointing to leave. I was like, no, fuck, I just wanted more of this.
Well, you can get to do that again in 5, so look forward to that.
There we go. Spoilers.
Yeah, but that's also, like, I would say a lot of the Yakuzas, despite being, like, one big story for Kiryu, tends to actually be fairly, like, you can just kind of pick up one and play it, and I don't know that you necessarily need to know stuff beforehand. They tend to, like like to go back to 0 at the end of a story, mostly. But with 4, like you kind of really need to play 3, otherwise some aspects of Sajima's character don't make sense. And to a certain extent, 0 as well. Like I think that this is one of the first ones that really rewards you having played earlier storylines.
Yeah, but I don't know. It feels like you could get away with this being your first entry into the series because it's all being told from these new characters' perspectives. I think they did a good amount of job showing the backstory. I mean, if you didn't know everything else, I don't think you would miss out on a lot of stuff, but I don't think you'd lose the thread of the main story.
No, not at all.
And I think they did a good job with that for Kiryu. Him being kind of a later addition character into the story that everyone else revolves around. I liked the idea of like, here's the main character that you've been playing for years now, multiple titles. This is your hero. You don't really get to play with him much in this one. And all these other characters, it felt like they were trying to reach the level of Kiryu as far as their commitment to trying to do good and what's right. They were using him as kind of a compass. And I thought they pulled that off really well.
Yeah, compass is a good way of explaining, or not explaining, but a good comparison, I think, when Kiryu shows up.
He's the moral compass. Yeah.
Like the one thing that probably doesn't make this my favorite Yakuza is that you don't have very good this is like the one Yakuza game where like the side stories and the side games kind of are a bit of a letdown. Because you have 4 different characters, you have like the side stories tend to, I feel like they have to like work around the main character, like the character you're playing as. So they are either more generic or they're still like their ways of giving that character more personality, which is, or like, like exploring that character's personality more, which I think is like a good decision when you have 4 different characters you're introducing, or 3 new characters you're introducing to the player. But it did kind of like, I felt like a lot of the side stories didn't have that like independent, just weird story or interesting story that you would have gotten out of another Yakuza game. And then they like, you don't have any of the fun kind of side games like you got in, I mean, granted, that's introduced initially in 5, so like the ones from the Kiwamis and 0 are more things that you would get in 5, but like lacking that kind of thing where I want to go do the slot car races or the management game or whatever. I think while it makes the game feel more focused, I think it also makes I was less interested in kind of exploring other aspects of the game. I was more interested in just kind of moving the plot along. Yeah,
me too. I wonder if any of that was intentional on their side, because they've shown an aptitude to putting in some engaging mini games. Even, 3 had, they weren't the best ones, but they were fun. I enjoyed it. I liked going through the sub-stories on it. This one, I almost felt like they were trying to pull back from that side of it to make players focus more on the character storylines and engaging with the city directly that way instead of passively.
Yeah, exactly.
But I didn't like that part. Like, I wanted more mini games. Give me games.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I in 5 you get a big mini game for each playable character, so I feel like they kind of walked that back a bit, but it also bloats the game a lot. Like that's one problem I have with 5. Spoilers for when we do a 5 episode, but I feel like 5 isn't just 4 with one more character. It's a much sprawlier, bloated game than 4 because like. Maybe it's my fault for wanting to do all the different characters' side story job things.
Sure.
But it does, I think, remove some of that focus from the storytelling.
Well, I'll be curious to try that one out at some point here, probably in 6-7 weeks. Seems like the...
We're going to wait that long?
Yeah, I don't know. We might be able to fill the time between.
We got 2 new Yakuza games coming out, or Like a Dragon games. We should probably start calling it that. We got one coming out next month, and then another one in January. So
I know.
And we still haven't done the spin-offs either. So we got to keep
Jesus
get moving on that.
Oh God. Oh, sorry. That was an insanely dangerous stretch. Wow.
Yeah, you went from a stretch to like a full-on like daycare center worker trying to get the toddlers up and moving.
Mm-hmm. I had to like physically move my body to pump blood towards my head. It's just pooling in my feet right now.
Fun.
Oh, even my blood's too tired to do work.
Oh, now I gotta stretch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a sympathetic yawn thing.
Oh, I was doing that all yesterday. I felt so bad. While I just like every minute I was yawning giant. Everyone started yawning. I was like, oh, fuck. Sorry.
Yeah. The dog will do that to me all the time. Drives me nuts.
That one does feel like, that one gets me when a dog causes me to yawn. I'm like, we're no different, you and I.
It's better when you do it and a dog does it too.
Oh, that one, I don't actually know if I've gotten a dog to yawn from my yawn. Can't say that's happened. Huh.
That one's harder to pull off.
I'm going to have to start, when I see dogs being walked around on the street, I'm going to go up and just try to yawn in front of their dog and see what happens. For science.
Mm-hmm. There you go. That certainly won't look weird at all.
No.
Yeah, so Yakuza 4. I think that's all we got to say about that. Yeah?
I think so.
Yeah, I feel like I have a lot more to say about it, but like I think that's what we should do. At some point after we're all caught up with the Yakuza games, we're just going to do like a big old like spoilery story,
a retrospective.
Just talk about all the storylines that we didn't want to spoil while we were talking about it for the pod.
And we'll do it all in reverse since we did it in forward to begin with.
I don't know if
that
would be less confusing. Actually,
it'll work
out. But yeah, so there's a lot of things I feel like I want to say about like a lot of the Yakuza games, but I end up not saying them because I don't want to spoil things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard. It's one of the harder aspects of responsible criticism.
Maybe we look into like an end of year or beginning of next year. Yeah, like you said, a big spoil-filled
if you catch
talk.
up, we could do Yakuzmas can happen.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah. We'll see if we can manage that.
All right, yeah, we might be playing some more games in this series before the holidays then.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a good idea. Get everyone caught up before the new one comes out in January.
Kind of like it.
Yeah. Yeah, if we want to be that irresponsible with our irresponsible with our time.
Wait, isn't there also one coming out in November, or is that a side game?
Yeah, well, they're calling it. It's like I think they're calling it like a Dragon Gaiden, which is like I think it's implied to be a side game. Also, it's going to cost I think only $30 or $40. So I think it's supposed to be basically like 7.5. Like I think it's since 7 was not about Kiryu. I think like
right, it's that Ichiban guy, right?
Yeah. So this one is the man who erased his name, I think, is going to be kind of like, what was Kiryu doing while 7 happened? And
interesting.
Because I think they're both going to be in 8. And I know they have names, but I'm using numbers because that makes more sense to me.
Right. And 8 is the search for more money, right?
Or the quest for infinite wealth or something like that.
It's whatever. It's some...
I mean, I think I got it wrong too.
Spaceballs ass title.
Yeah. So that one, I'm looking forward to that too. So.
Yeah, hell yeah, I can't wait. And the Judgment series.
Yeah, I got those. Although I don't know if we can probably hold off on the Judgments and then Ishin as well, because I think those we don't really need to play for the new ones to come out. Because one is set in like literally an alternate time period. And then the other one is in the Judgment games. Apparently there's some spoilers for the second Judgment game, which I haven't played, by the way. I've only played a little bit of the first Judgment. I haven't played either of them. So there are some things that are spoiled from 7 if you haven't played it before you play Last Judgment, which is the second Judgment game.
So they And I can't wait because they'll do a third one. It'll be called The Very Last Judgment.
The First Judgment, just to fuck things up.
Oh, God, that probably is what they do. Judgment Zero, fuck. That's interesting, though. So they do take place in the same world, though?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're still in Kamurocho, even.
Interesting.
So, like, I think what kind of was the idea was, like, after 7, Like a Dragon would go into, like, the, like, RPG, like, vein, and Judgment would kind of still be your beat-em-up game. So.
I like that. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to change.
I have to say, like, it is nice going to playing a turn-based thing, going from the beat-em-up gameplay a little bit, just because the freshness of. I feel like Yakuza really is just kind of a stand near a bicycle combat simulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the secret to all combat is bicycle, and the secret to all objects is that anything can be a bicycle. Yep. So that just
you just swing it hard enough.
A chair is just a bicycle that can't move.
That's right.
And that leads to some repetitious combat. So
yeah,
I personally was someone who was probably pretty happy with the move to the turn-based RPG. But I'm one of those people who really likes turn-based RPGs.
I do as well. Do they do? Is it active battle system or is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I like those more.
Like
gives you a little more fast pace and a little more strategy.
Yeah, I would say that I actually like it less when it's like that, but that's also just a personal preference. I would say I played more active ones than before I ever played any of the non-active ones. So I think like a lot of Americans, my first JRPG was Wild Arms. No, Final Fantasy VII, which is an active battle system. So all the other ones around that time period were active, like Wild Arms. And 8.
I think my first JRPG was Final Fantasy 2, technically. Like, it was one of the early ones.
Like Japanese 2?
Yeah, no, it would be like
2?
It would be the American 2.
So I think American 2 is 5?
I don't know. I can never, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't know.
I know. This is they should never ever change the name for stuff for other markets, because if it does, it's like the Like a Dragon Yakuza thing, or the Biohazard Resident Evil thing. Just call it the same thing.
It starts to get so confusing. They're all trying to take it back now, and unless it's something super offensive in another language, just leave it alone. Don't change it.
Yeah. That's for whatever reason, Sweden likes to change the names of movies when they come out over here, or historically. I don't think they do it anymore. But, so the first Mel Brooks movie to come out in Sweden was The Producers, which was, I think, his first one, and they didn't call it The Producers, they called it Springtime for Hitler, because that's
yes,
big numbers. So yeah, but so every other Mel Brooks movie after that was called Springtime for blank. So Blazing Saddles is called Springtime for the Sheriff, and so on and so forth. So people would know that it's part of the same, it's the same kind of movie.
Oh my god.
So Spaceballs is called Springtime for Spaceballs or something. I don't.
That is actually kind of amazing. Why wouldn't they just do Mel Brooks's blank?
That's just how they do it. I don't freaking know. I don't know.
That's wild. I kind of like that, though. I kind of like the idea, if you owned a movie theater here, even in America, you just made up the title to it. It's no, I've got the movie. I get to show it. I'm going to call it whatever I want.
Well, it wasn't the movie theater. It would be the organization that imported the movie and distributed it. You have AMC in America or whatever. So it wasn't just Guy with this theater, because they print up the posters and everything like that, to go to all the movie theaters or whatever. So.
God, I really want one of those Springtime for Spaceballs posters.
Actually, I have some old Swedish movie posters, but none of them are the fun title changes. I have Interview with the Vampire and Silence of the Lambs and Time Bandits, and I think those are all just literally like the transliterations for those. Like I don't think they have different titles, unfortunately. That'd be fun though with Interview with the Vampire. You just change it for all the different vampire movies.
I just really like the idea now that in Sweden, Mel Brooks was the first American movie they ever got to. And then so going forward, everything from America gets Springtime for blank after it or before it.
No,
that would be also wonderful.
Yeah, I can't remember what the other ones are, but there are a ton of them like that where like, or they won't even be related. Like I think, God, there's like some actress I want to say from like the 50s, and like hypothetically, this isn't it, but hypothetically, like, you know, like the first Marilyn Monroe movie ever here was like Some Like It Hot, and they called it like, and then like all the other ones would be like Some Like It Cold, and like the 7-Year Itch would be like Some Like It Itchy or something like that.
God. Like
even though those are completely unrelated movies, they just have the same actress in it. That'd be how they would title them.
Oh, that's so good. That's so weird. I just don't know. Like, do movie posters there not just have like down at the bottom starring and then the name, like the headline names?
Oh yeah, but like you just didn't know. Like I mean, also like you didn't have the same like movies like. So like until like the 80s, I think, or the 70s, Sweden basically just had one TV channel, and like you would just like movie theaters would all basically show the same movies. You know, it was but partially because it was very heavily governmentally regulated, but also partially because there wasn't that much interest in getting movies into the Swedish market. Not that Swedes didn't really want that. Like Swedes ate up like, you know, cowboy movies, and anything they could get their hands on that was American. You know, even way back in the day. Like the big Christmas tradition in Sweden for like generations has been to watch Kalle Anka. Kalle Anka being just a Swedish term for Donald Duck. And that started off as a thing Disney did all over the world called From All of Us to All of You. And it was just basically like a Christmas assembly of short films, like, you know, old Mickey Mouse cartoons, etc., and snippets from movies. And then they would tack on, like, this is what Disney's doing this year. And
smart.
So, but, like, it's like this very, like, almost like cargo culty thing in Sweden where they've just glommed onto this thing as, like, it's part of the tradition now. Like, you have to watch, like, all the same, it's the same short ones, it's the same, you know, Mickey Mouse cartoons that they've always had.
It's like when TBS decided that A Christmas Story will be our national Christmas movie, and they play it for 24 hours straight on their channel. Yeah,
very similar, except here, like, you have there's a specific time it comes on to the channel, and then beforehand, they have like a personality come on and like say a thing about Christmas, then light a little candle to like initiate the cartoons.
That's dope. That's actually kind of dope that they still bothered to do that. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I enjoy it as far as traditions are concerned.
Hell yeah. We're gonna have to come up with a few traditions of our own for Yakuza.
Yakuza. The more we say it, the more I like it. I
do too. I think I might even try to do a quiz for you during it. Shake things up.
Oh, Christmas Yakuza quiz. Yeah, I don't have a quiz this week. I mentioned that already. I just nothing came to me with inspiration.
I'm so disappointed in you. I don't have any news this week.
Well, there is. I mean, we could prowl for news, certainly.
Hang on, let me.
I'm sure there's been more terrible things that happened in the video game industry. People have been let off.
Oh God, yeah. Don't just start it by typing in just news, because it is all depressing right now.
Oh yeah, don't do that. I did see something kind of depressing but interesting. So, if you remember a while back, there was that Gollum game that everyone crapped on because it was kind of a piece of crap.
Yes.
That killed Daedalic, the studio that made all those 2D point and clicks. Anyway. So there was a German, I read about this on PC Gamer, but apparently most of this information comes from an interview done in German. So, you know, I may be wrong about some stuff, but basically Daedalic got bought by a company called Nacon, not a few years back. And they were tasked with making this Gollum game, and they were given a budget of 1 million euros to make this game. And
that's how, yeah, that
doesn't sound like. I mean, it sounds. I mean, for me, that's a lot of money for a a licensed video game.
Yeah.
A 3D
Not
licensed video game. Yeah, which I think was supposed to be made in under a year as well.
Jesus.
So I think that the person speaking said that it probably should have been like a 10 to 15 million euro budget. So they were just very underfunded, understaffed, and trying to complete this thing as quickly as possible. And then when the game didn't perform well, the parent company, Nacon, had ChatGPT create an apology letter and
Christ.
issued that without consulting the studio that made the game itself before shutting down said studio.
Jesus Christ.
So that apology that was released for the bad performance for Gollum was entirely done by AI.
Oh, God. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I hope we see a lot more apology letters written by ChatGPT going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be, if you're some capitalist piece of shit, you're probably thinking like, I don't have to hire fucking PR people anymore.
What's beautiful is the more people do that, it's just going to start becoming this weird amalgamation of all the world's apology letters.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna feel like a fever dream. I love it.
I mean, if they don't already feel like fever dreams.
Yeah, no shit. Oh my God, I love that. I did see just now that I guess Microsoft got cleared for the Activision Blizzard acquisition.
Yeah, so that'll probably happen.
That's gonna happen.
Oh, actually, good news. The California Right to Repair Act passed. So now, from like a hardware standpoint, although I think it doesn't actually cover video game consoles. I think that was like something written to. So if it costs more than $300 and is not a video game console, companies have to provide software, technical specifications, and repair parts for like 7 years or something like that. If it costs less than $300, it's 3 years.
Yeah,
I think if I'm not mistaken.
It's nice. It's a step forward.
Yeah, and considering, Apple and all those people are based in California, and generally speaking, in American law, where California goes, a lot of other states end up going, if not all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a pretty big economy. Like, on a global level, even.
Yeah. I think just California by itself outpaces a lot of countries.
Yep. Pretty crazy.
Indeed.
Yeah, I am happy to see that. I'm hoping a lot more of that's going to keep happening. I know the EU's been getting on Apple's ass about their batteries and stuff too. They want them to go back to a system where you can actually swap the battery out, which I would like, because that's how
from a safety perspective, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Just because like so much nowadays in like transit and like working in hazardous material and stuff is like battery safety. Like I think that making sure people can replace the batteries when they wear out as easily as possible is, best for the public interest, just not even from a consumer rights standpoint, just from a fire safety
It would
standpoint.
even protect the company to a degree, because say somehow a faulty line of phones gets through that they'd have to do a mass recall on for a battery issue. Well, now they can just swap it out. I don't know. I don't know why we do the things that we do in the world right now.
You all right there, Mike?
I'm gonna be fine.
He's fading pretty.
I gotta go chop chicken and pork in a couple hours here, and
I just saw his eyes like glazed over, and he started gazing into the middle distance.
I just started realizing I gotta immediately go in and make pickled red onions. So that's actually the first thing I'll have to do is just chop a fuckload of red onion up.
That's pickled red onions. Although I didn't actually make them myself because I'm too lazy. I bought them from a store, which
so easy to make.
Our friends would chastise me for not making my own pickled red onions. I also don't make my own kimchi either. So.
Oh, I haven't done that shit. No, I just buy mother-in-law's kimchi from the store. It's great.
I buy store brand kimchi.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
I'm not fancy with that.
That's fine. I'll probably do kimchi one day, but I'm still trying to get the idea of bacterial fermentation down. Oh, and my co-host just had an aneurysm. So
So I've been trying to keep myself from fidgeting with things because I tend to do that when we're recording, and more from like my perspective of not wanting to edit out me clicking a pen for an hour and a half every time I record those things. Sure. So I've been fidgeting with my pocket knife, and I just stabbed myself with it.
Nice. That's a bad object to fidget. That's such a bad object to fidget. Here's a tip for you. Just before we like start recording, get some dead space on the air and just click that pen as many times as you want right into the mic and just isolate that and go, help. Not this sound.
Oh, I do that all the time. Like that is the only reason that Mike doesn't sound like there's like a machine running behind him every time I edit this.
Which is wild because there's nothing. I hear nothing. I might be going deaf a little bit in my right ear, definitely, but I hear nothing right now.
Yeah, it just sounds like he's like in the belly of a ship sometimes. You just hear this noise. And our last episode, Marcus, who has a new microphone and everything went well.
Yeah.
There was like this constant knocking sound, and I don't know if it was just Marcus gesticulating and hitting the microphone, or if it was, he also doesn't have a stand, so I think it was just kind of rocking back and forth on his desk. So that's why he sounds a little bit hollow, because I spent a lot of time editing out that rocking sound.
He needs to try the Lego method that I recommended to him. Just build himself a little mic stand out of that.
I mean, all the cool kids just hold the microphone these days anyway. Like, I don't get, what is the point of that? Like, they get the lav mic, but then they hold the lav mic right next to their mouth. Like,
you've simultaneously made us sound so old and like such assholes. I'm sure there's some reason people are doing it, but I don't get it. It's the same people where you'll see them like in traffic where they're holding their phone and you can tell they're on speakerphone, but they're holding it like up to their face in this weird way. I
actually do that, but I don't put it on speakerphone. I put it on when I'm just doing normal and I have like my headphones in. But the reason I do that is because I am the greasiest human being on the face of the earth. Like, I need pillowcases for my pillowcases, right?
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
If my screen touches my face in any amount, I have to wipe that thing down before it even register me touching it again. So, from my perspective, that's why I do it.
Okay. Well, the things I learn about you. You keep surprising me.
Hey, well, no secrets on the save state, I guess.
That's right. Except for that one that we will take to our graves.
Yakuza plot spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it. That seems like we'll never get to talk about those. We will eventually.
Yeah.
You know what? It's not news, but what about a Starfield check-in? We got a few minutes here. How are you?
Check in on like the mod scene.
God, no. I mean, maybe they can
personally.
I
uninstalled Starfield.
Yeah,
I haven't actually been playing it. This is the fastest I've
uninstalled Starfield.
Yeah, on one hand, like I don't regret playing it. It wasn't a bad game.
No.
But this is the fastest I've uninstalled a Bethesda game ever.
Yep, I've done it all.
I felt like I got a good lot of stuff out of it. It was a good game. Maybe the mod scene will reinvigorate some interest I have in it, but I'm done with it. I might go back to Fallout. I might go back to Skyrim. Someday I might go back to Starfield, but yeah.
I don't understand like how disassociated Todd Howard has to be that he thinks like this is the forever game. Like he keeps going into these positions of like, you're going to be playing this for a really long time. And it's like, dude, it's been a few weeks and I'm done.
I think he's just like a robot that says salesy, buzzwordy things.
Yeah.
He's like a more believable Peter Molyneux. Peter Molyneux, by the way, a bit late to the party in 2023, announced that he's making a blockchain-based NFT game.
That sounds really right. We should probably get in on the ground floor of that. He's never let us down. dope.
Now that only the really cool people are still fucking with NFTs.
I feel like that would be like the
Molyneux's
final like
in.
full circle come around is they announce a new Fable and it's an NFT game.
Oh god, yeah. No, thankfully, Fable has been wrenched from Peter Molyneux's claws, and now are owned by the slightly bigger, or much bigger, but only slightly less wretched claws of Microsoft.
Mm-hmm. God, they are getting big.
Oh, speaking of Microsoft, a listener did write in to correct us when we were speaking of when we're talking about video game streaming services. We mentioned that Microsoft may or may not use Amazon's AWS stuff, when in fact Microsoft has their own competing server internet stuff.
It's fine. I care not about that. That's fine. Come at me.
Well, no,
Send
it's
all your
important
complaints
to get these
to him.
right.
I give no fucks. I have never said that I know what I'm talking about on here. In fact, it's by accident if I say accurate information.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we hedge our news pretty good. But no, I mean, I didn't know that. I mean, it makes sense that it's not just that Microsoft would have this kind of thing going. But
it makes sense.
Bang! This is a short ep. We gotta pad this out with something.
That was my pad out. With Starfield.
Well, maybe we can move into our last segment here and talk about what we've been playing. Maybe that'll spur some more content. Maybe
a little bit. I actually have been getting back into Elden Ring with some friends.
Okay.
And it's been a lot of fun, especially after coming off of Lies of P. It's a fun game. I enjoyed it a lot, but man, nothing beats like one of the originals, like a From Software. They're just so much more enjoyable. They do it right. Everything clicks. It feels smoother. The graphics, the animation, all of it. I fucking love it. This time around, though, I decided to go very punishing on myself and do a bow build, because I was like, well, I've tried bows in Elden Ring. They suck. But let's see if we can beat the game with one. Man, when you finally commit to all bow, they get so nasty strong. I did not realize the potential.
My mother and my stepfather are avid Elden Ring players, and my stepfather swears by the bow build.
It's so powerful. Like, I'm just downing bosses and barely getting hit. It's incredible. I actually feel bad because I wanted to like choose something purposefully kind of unbalanced and underpowered. That wasn't it. I'm going to play through with it, but I'm going to have to figure out something else. Maybe beast build isn't as viable or something. I don't know. But
I still should probably play that at some point.
It's very good. Did you just recently pick it up on PC?
I did. Yeah, it was a gift actually. From my mother.
We will have to play that soon.
I know.
And then one of our buddies got me back into Stardew Valley. So.
Oh yeah, there's a new update coming out soon.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I got back into it. It's been a long time, and I realized I'd never actually beaten it. Like I'd never gotten like enough time in to finish the main story.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So. I'm working on that again. I was a little bummed out because we were hoping to do some multiplayer, and we're still going to, but I thought I'd be able to take my character over and progress my character's stats and stuff and then come back into my game. I didn't think I can't take items, I figured, but I thought maybe some of the money or the stat gains I would be able to carry back over. And no, you just become a farmhand on their farm.
Yeah. I haven't actually done any Stardew multiplayer ever.
No, me neither.
I keep meaning to like go back to that. It's like that one and to a lesser extent Animal Crossing. I played a ton and I haven't gone back to them. Although Stardew Valley I've gone back to a couple times, but not since like not since I think 1.4 or 1.3 or whatever that update was.
It's really interesting because since we played Graveyard Keeper relatively recently,
it was 6 months ago.
Yeah, I kept finding myself thinking of like going to places, thinking I was going to talk to a character, but I was like, shit, no, that's in Graveyard Keeper. This area doesn't exist here.
Yeah, no, I mean that is kind of true. Like you have like the farm, quote unquote, to the left of the village and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think that's also something that probably originates in like Harvest Moon.
Probably. You said Animal Crossing though, and I just that one I couldn't do it. It's too much of a commitment. It caused me to feel stressed out because if I didn't get on for a day, I missed out. I like Stardew Valley for that exact opposite reason. Like I can just it'll stay where it is until I'm ready to come back in.
I agree. That is one problem I've always had with Stardew Valley is like the daily requirements of it, as opposed to like I tend to binge games. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason why I have to do this podcast is because I will play a game incessantly for 2 weeks and then I will put it away, mm-hmm. and then I or a month or whatever. I don't like to just play a bit every day like that. Doesn't
unless it's Fallout 4.
Well, so. No, but then I play all day every day. That's not like a little bit.
Fair. Yeah, that's true.
I commit several hours a day for weeks. No, but with Animal Crossing, like I played it a lot during the pandemic, like everyone else did.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone talks about like the whole Barbenheimer thing, but does anyone remember like the Doom Animal Crossing co-release day thing, where you had all the fan art of Isabelle killing demons and stuff? Do you remember that? That was like one of the highlights of the pandemic.
I don't think that happened.
No. Like look it up. Like just type Animal Crossing Doom in there. It was just like a whole thing. Maybe we just all had early pandemic brain at that point, because I think that was April 2020.
And famously, even before the pandemic, I am not online. So if it took social media by storm, I would not have seen it. Oh, that is pretty great though.
I wasn't on anything. I might have still been on Reddit then, but I don't think so.
You know what? It actually works so good, those two characters together, that I kind of want to see that game.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise. I mean, well, it would surprise me because Nintendo and their IP, but
no, but
hypothetically,
I would love if like a game had this cute, adorable mascot-like character that followed around the main character as they're just in this like war is hell bloodbath kind of place. I don't know. It'd be an interesting.
It could be fun.
Yeah,
I could see that getting pretty bad at some points though. Like that kind of Rick and Morty humor that everyone seeks out these days.
Not that. Definitely not that though. No. I keep seeing that fucking game High on Life like showing up everywhere. I fucking hated it. So goddamn annoying.
Yeah, that's going to be one of those ones that'll probably be really fun to revisit in like 10 or 20 years. Like, when after we're in like fucking retirement homes and we decide to start a podcast again, we can go back and like, oh man, we were so cringe.
Yep.
Even though we disliked that game intensely. I actually haven't played anything new. I went back and played Yakuza 6. In preparation for talking about Yakuza 4, I went back and played Yakuza 6.
Great.
Just because I wanted to redo some of the side stuff that I never did when I played Yakuza 6, which I got bored of and didn't finish again. So there that is. Not that I didn't play some Yakuza 4 to remind myself. That's one thing I like about the Yakuza games. You can just... in the game, you can watch all the cutscenes, like just as a big movie. But one thing I'm looking forward to playing today is that Star Trek Infinite came out.
Yes,
the not Stellaris Star Trek game.
Yep.
Which is a cool $30 on Steam.
Yeah, I'm going to be picking it up today, probably before I go in, so that I can play some tonight when I get home.
Yeah, so I am looking forward to playing that.
Do you know what faction you want to start with?
I am going to probably be basic and just start with the Federation, yeah. I'm not... I all of them I will eventually play, but... Sure. The thing is, Stellaris was always a play as the Federation fantasy simulator for me. Yeah. Like, if Skyrim is the ultimate barbarian fantasy, then what I wanted Stellaris to be was the ultimate, like, Federation fantasy.
And now you just have it?
And now I just have it. So that's absolutely what I'm going to do.
I am happy that their price point is so reasonable, because I know inevitably it's going to be like, here's a bundle sale and you can get all of Star Trek Infinite's DLC for $180.
Also, like, it does discourage all the people saying, like, this is just a Stellaris mod. And while I'm fairly certain it's based on the same engine that Stellaris is, I feel like a $30 price point is hard to kind of complain about these days. I wonder what would happen if that that aforementioned Gollum game came out at a $30 price point. Like, how much hate would have it gotten at that?
Yeah, there's so many games that, I mean, we've played some games where we felt like the price point was insulting based on how little content there was.
And I was thinking about that, like, it's kind of a shitty way of judging video games.
I know.
Like, we don't do that about anything else. It's just like if you think about a movie or a book, like I was thinking about this because you go on like Amazon, right? And you look up reviews for like a book. And like half the reviews are like arrived intact, no pages missing, on time, 5 stars. And like, that's what, okay, sure, that's a great review of Tom Sawyer, thanks. But I mean, obviously no one who's like a literary critic or someone who wants to read a book is going to be like, that's a legitimate review of that book. That's a review of that product or that service, you know what I mean? But with movies too, it's not like, went to the movies, paid too much, popcorn was stale, kid kept kicking me behind me, and then they're like, Godfather Part 2, terrible movie. Like, no, like we separate those things. But with video games, we don't do that. It's like, it was expensive, it was buggy, bad game. And it's like, is it a bad game though? Or did you just have a bad experience with the product?
Or did you just have a bad day? Like, in general.
Yeah, that too. Like, still, I just don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
The way we talk about games like that. Like where we can say game's bad because it cost us $70. Like, well, obviously don't buy it. But like, if the new John Grisham is a hardcover book that $30 or whatever, I mean, people will probably be upset, I guess. I don't know. Do people actually read John Grisham books, or do they just kind of appear in like people's libraries?
Just appear. Yeah.
Yeah. Like no one's going to be like, well, this is his worst. Like, we've separated the product from the art, so to speak.
So has John Grisham.
Video games has not done at all. Well, yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be on here and say fucking Five Nights at Freddy's deserves to be considered art, then I can give the same consideration for John Grisham.
I kind of want to see that movie though, to see what the fuck is that all going to be about. Because when you get behind like the guy who made those games, it all gets really wild.
Yeah, no, I mean, like we've successfully separated Notch from Minecraft. I feel like we can do that with other things, the death of the author and all that.
Yep.
But my point being that, like, I think it's a kind of bad, which is why we generally don't try not to talk about pricing.
I try not to. I always feel bad when I say it.
Sometimes it's like an important thing to consider, but like at the end of the day, like we want to be critics, not like consumer reports, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like with video games, it's like the one thing that has to be both.
Yeah,
like they have to be artistically meaningful and meritful, but they also have to be like a good product, a good service that arrives on time and doesn't cost too much. And that's weird. Yep. It's just really weird.
Yep.
I mean, like oftentimes I would go, like I remember going to Borders when I was a kid all the time. And I was a little art movie dork, so I would walk by the DVD section and they'd have like the Criterion Collection versions of like all kinds of movies I knew I wanted to see, but like, like Fellini and Kurosawa and shit. But I'm like, I'm not paying $50 for a fucking DVD. Are you insane? Mm-hmm. But I'm not like trying to say like, Fellini is a bad director because Criterion released a $50 DVD box set that I couldn't afford. Mm-hmm. Or I didn't want to afford, it's a weird thing that we do with video games that we don't do with anything else, basically.
Yeah, I think that's why we have to support more and more indie developers too, so that we are not constantly awarding these giant behemoths that are putting out sometimes sub-quality games and still trying to do a cash grab on it. I don't think it's always that we are purposely trying to tie the value to the experience. I think it's just that we've become so cynical and like desensitized to that because we've kind of been fucked over so much by companies
Well, and also like we've separated them into different things. An indie game is not the same as a AAA game.
Yeah.
They're different products, which I don't know if that's fair. A lot of those AAA games used to be indie titles.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those, and some of these indie titles now will eventually become big AAA IP behemoths. You know,
Talking about Dave the Diver.
I do want to. Yeah, I'm talking about
the expanded Dave universe.
That's literally what I was about to say. We should probably play that at some point. But like,
yes,
you know, my point being like, I think by removing the concept of the price in the product, we can create that level playing field where like we can stop saying that like this is a good game for a $30 game and this is a terrible game for a $70 game, and we can just say that Stardew Valley is a better game than Assassin's Creed Valhalla because that's just you know
a fact.
And it doesn't matter that they're different products. I mean, granted, they're probably aimed at different audiences, but I don't know if that really should matter.
Yeah, it's, you know, getting off subject a little bit. I saw the latest advertisement for the new Assassin's Creed Mirage game.
Mm-hmm.
Don't love how they're pitching it. Did you stab yourself again?
Mm-hmm. I sure did.
Are you bleeding out?
No blood. Just pin. Like I didn't actually stab myself. I did when you close like a Swiss Army knife, and I just caught that little like bit of my skin between my thumb and my hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay. Sorry.
No, I was just I didn't love how they were advertising it for this, and it felt exactly like a Nike shoe commercial. Like the music behind it, the way they did the cuts, these inspirational words constantly popping up on the screen, and it was basically like, "Do you dare to be an assassin?" And it was like, "Oh, that's all right. I don't know. This doesn't seem."
Oh, you mean the same way they've been marketing these things since the beginning?
I know, but like, okay, first off, the old ones where they would have like a billion people in hoodies doing parkour, those were great, and they should go back to those. Those were some of my favorite commercials. That was at the height of parkour gaming, and I loved it. But
my favorite video game commercials were the 90s ones where it was just like a very bored sounding like young adult guy just being like, Crash Bandicoot 2 now for the PlayStation.
You're talking about when Lynch was doing PlayStation commercials. And it would just be like someone in a white room just filling their pants with their own feces for like 2 days. And then it'd be like, PlayStation.
Not at all.
It's like, what?
What are you talking about?
We all remember that one.
That is not at all what I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure.
But sorry, I interrupted your Mirage thing.
No, all I was going to say is it gave me really big youth pastor energy vibes of like, hey, are you a cool kid? Because this is cool. Look at how cool this is.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no.
Well, we're not kids
this one's going to be bad.
Is the problem. You know, like that's the other thing is like it feels like a lot of times in any kind of, you know, media, certainly in the last century or whatever, where it feels like, they're just doing the same thing they've been doing for the last 20 years. And it's like, well, it's because like they're not aiming at me. They're aiming at that same person that worked on 20 years ago.
It's true.
You know, like all of the stupid butt rock truck commercials. Yeah, they've been the same for the last 20 years, but they're also not aiming at me. They're aiming at the same guy who was affected by the butt rock truck commercials 20 years ago. So I think that's the thing is like, not to go back to that thing I was talking about, the 90s commercials, but in the 90s, like, I think that there was like this, and partially why we're spoiled by like some actually decent advertising. No one knew how to market anything to anyone anymore. I think that like Nirvana broke everyone's brains, and no one really, and I'm only being a little bit, like only exaggerating a little bit. And like no one really knew how they were going to get through to people or what was going to be cool going forward because it came out of nowhere. You know, like that's like we think of the 90s, like you had, you know, movies were everything from animated shit. There were like, you know, all like the Disney Renaissance movies were huge, but then at the same time, that was the same decade where, you know, people went and watched like, a duffel bag full of heads and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and like and Clerks. That was like all the same, film experience. Like music, like you had like there was a ska period in the 90s where you just heard ska on pop radio or like swing revival or gangster rap.
Let me tell you right now, the 90s never left my Jeep if you listen to the music coming out of that. That's for damn sure.
But my point is, it's like I think that we like are kind of spoiled in the fact that we had so much different stuff in the 90s.
Yeah.
Because like advertising in the 60s and the 50s and the 60s, 70s, 80s had a pretty good understanding of what they were going to do. Everything was kind of the same. Everything was very homogenous.
I was going to say they were treated like a monoculture for a lot of it too.
Yeah. And then I think in the 90s and the early 2000s, especially when you had like the unhinged like Facebook internet where you were just like flipping around on GeoCities websites and everything was just kind of...
We were all becoming cringy internet atheists.
Yeah, that too. But like my point is like there was no like single direct, like no one had kind of figured out what that was going to be. So like growing up, there was advertising that was for like males between the age of 14 and 20 or whatever the crap we were. But like there was 5 different ways advertising companies were approaching that, because there was no consistent like this is what works on people this age. And now that we are back into much more controlled environments, like instead of having just 4 TV channels like it was for like our grandparents, we are like there's just Facebook and Reddit and Twitter, and that's where you get all your advertising. And now they've settled on these things again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like things have gotten more focused. It's just that there was a period when things were unfocused, and we happened to live through it.
Yeah, and we'll see another disruption like that again at some point. But, it's funny. Hopefully. We started this morning by talking about how old and out of touch and curmudgeon-y we've sounded on the last several episodes. And, hey, I think we've found our voice.
I don't know if we were being curmudgeon-y. I think
this
I was
isn't
being
so much curmudgeon-y as it is. I don't know.
Just old.
Yeah, just old. Oh God. Oh, well. I do have a little bit of extra fun breaking news.
Breaking news.
Breaking. My boss just texted me. I don't have to go in today. Thank God.
Oh,
great.
We
have
amazing.
more things that came in, so we have even less room to try to cook. So,
that's great.
We're gonna take a day.
So we can we'll just scrap this episode. You can go take a nap.
I can sleep
we'll
for a
record
little
this
bit,
again.
and then we'll do it again. That's right. Perfect.
All right. But I think that's all I got to say. I'm gonna play some Star Trek Infinite here in a bit.
Yes. Sorry, I just started thinking of the lyrics of "Killing Me Softly." I don't know why. My brain hurts right now.
That's an interesting one. Okay, well, fair. God. Is it because we're talking about the 90s?
I honestly don't know. I just realized you're recording something right now and you've just been silent for like 10 seconds. Oh, no.
That's okay, I can edit that out. Silence is real easy to edit out.
Yep. Learned that. Oh, shit.
I noticed you got rid of the mustache.
I have to. For work, unless I want to wear the beard net. And I did not want to wear a beard net.
That's not, like every classic chef, every statue of every chef I've ever seen has had a mustache.
I know.
Granted, they're always like fat guys with a little Hitler mustache, so maybe that's what you gotta do.
When I get rid of my mustache, I always like to have some fun with it right before, just to see what other looks would look like. And I'm not going to say that's one that like I could rock, but man, he really fucked us out of like a cool little stash.
Yeah, it was a thing before you had Charlie Chaplin and what's his name? The not Abbott and Costello. Who was the other two?
David Chaplin,
Laurel and Hardy.
Oh, sure,
the big guy from yeah. He had that mustache too.
Yep.
That's what all the chefs are based off of secretly. Was that
Are you just talking about like Matt Groening's version of a chef?
No, because Matt Groening is like the Italian guy, like the very stereotypical pizza box Italian.
That's
chef.
true. He's got a little bit of a bigger,
mustache.
the twirlable
I'm closer to that mustache.
God, I was right there. My dreams were dashed.
You
That's fine.
You gotta find one of those ones that let you have a mustache. See, what you really restaurants really should do is require chefs to have mustaches.
See, that's right. I mean, it wasn't that I couldn't have it. I just would have had to wear a ridiculous beard nut the entire time, and that's
not the little mustache net.
No one's going to make me look like I couldn't find them. I looked online. I couldn't find any that were just for that. I think it was just my name is Earl. I think they just made one for that.
That makes more sense.
It does. I don't even know. Like a beard net makes sense because it holds down on here to wear it for my mustache. I'd have to have like a fishnet half mask on, like a domino mask, basically, but just on the bottom portion.
It go behind your ears, like it just looks like that, and you just have the one that goes. You know what I mean? Like instead of having it go from chin to nose, it just goes from upper lip to nose.
I think I just have to wear a fishnet stocking over my head if I want to have any kind of facial hair.
Also a possibility. I mean, not probably a comfortable one, but a possibility.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Wearing a fishnet stocking.
I don't know. I'm so tired, Arvid.
I'm like, wait, are you trying to advocate like bank robbing at this point, or is this?
That's
like
the worst thing for bank robbing. Everyone can see you just fine. It's fishnet.
Why did that become a thing? Was it just like they thought cameras wouldn't pick it up properly if you had like that over your face?
Just like a smashed face? Like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, like because like the angle or something.
Like I gotta tell you, I had a lot of friends that would put their face against the glass when I was growing up and smash it and make weird faces. And I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Good God. And I could tell them apart. Like I knew who they were. It was not confusing at all to see a smudged face.
Yeah, I don't know. It might actually make more sense nowadays if you're trying to avoid like AI facial recognition.
Fuck yeah, it does.
You can like move your nose and stuff. So, but it doesn't make sense in like old timey movies.
No, but that tells me I just need to get a shitload of Scotch tape and before I leave the house, like just tape my face into weird ass positions.
I remember there was a thing where they were like, I think it was when they were having all those protests in Hong Kong before the pandemic or whatever, and they were selling like stocking, like basically like facial like stockings like that, but with like just random makeup splattered everywhere because they said that would prevent facial recognition stuff from picking it up.
I would wear one of those Halloween stocking masks, but it would just be Xi Jinping's head, like face on the front of it.
What if you got one of those things like where like the Grim Reaper masks that are just like supposed to be like a black face, but you can see right through that? Would that work? I mean, that would look spooky. A bunch of protesters look all Grim Reaper-y.
Oh, that might detract from the messaging, depending on the protest. But yes. I don't know. If I didn't know what event was going on that day and I turned a corner and I just see thousands of people in like the ghost face mask, I think I might lose my shit right then and there.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. This was gone some weird places, which means it probably should.
I know. Now I'm just picturing SantaCon, but with all of them wearing ghost face.
What's SantaCon?
You know, where like all the Santas get together. They do one like Portland and stuff. It's just a fuckload of like Santas and Santa enthusiasts.
Right. Of course, I should know that. Also, hey, that's another thing I thought about. Remember when like Elvis impersonators were a thing? Like,
yes.
I thought
they're still around.
Like, no, but I mean, like when I was a kid, I thought like Elvis impersonators were just a thing. Like every
like it was a profession, like it was a job.
Like maybe it wasn't a profession, but it was just something commonplace enough. Like Civil War reenactors, or you know whatever. Like like there was like one guy who'd do birthday parties or something in every neighborhood who was an Elvis impersonator, and that's not a thing. I've never met an Elvis impersonator.
I've never met one. I've seen one in the wild.
I mean, okay, yeah, I've seen one at an airport, but I've seen like a lot of other things at an airport too. I don't count that. But like, in general, like aside for the like, there was one guy I would see at the country market sometimes who I was pretty certain was like a Marlboro Man impersonator, but that doesn't really count.
He just had lung cancer. That's it. That's all. Like, he wasn't impersonating anything.
What happened? What happened to all those Elvis impersonators? Was it just something that like the media was really interested in for a while, so they putting him in stuff?
I think they just
or was it just
are
like
all in
fad,
Vegas now. Like they probably all have their own little residency somewhere. I don't know.
Like just like a nursing home that is just Elvis impersonators. It's like a reverse Bubba Hotep, where like there's like two guys at the nursing home for Elvis impersonators who don't think they're Elvis.
God, how dare you bring up Bubba Hotep? Now I need to watch that again. There is a non-zero chance that there is a Elvis impersonator right now attempting to hop onto a train to take him to his next town.
See, that's what I'm thinking. Like, why isn't that what our reality?
I don't know. Go hang out at the train.
Switch realities at some point.
Hang out at the train tracks. I'm sure you'll find an Elvis impersonator somewhere if you wait long enough.
I don't think so, though.
And maybe not in
You
Sweden,
need like a lot
especially.
more equipment. Yeah, you need like a camp of people to support an Elvis impersonator. Like an Elvis impersonator does not exist in a vacuum. It's like you could just be like a clown and just put on like Elvis makeup. You need to like have hair, and you have to have you gotta have someone take care of all those sequined fucking outfits and shit. Unless you're like Fat Elvis, or even Fat Elvis, you'd have to be like, I don't know, like Army Elvis impersonator. It's just you could just be like a guy with a bouffant and
blonde Elvis. On. Yeah.
Was he blonde?
Yeah, it was like shoe polish or some shit to dye his hair black. He was a blonde. Probably. I'm pretty sure. That seems like it came from somewhere in my mind, and I'm pretty sure it's right.
I don't know if shoe polish is probably what you'd be using.
This is how we're going to get maximum listener engagement, is me just putting out facts into the world.
Dude, there are some people who are fucking like insane about it. I worked with someone once who was like literally obsessed with Elvis. Like he was a just very normal person. Well, not normal, but relatively normal person who had a job, but was obsessed with Elvis to the point that one day he went to like Graceland, right? And there was just like literally his mecca. Like, he had to do it every year.
That's wild.
And he came back one year with a Ziploc bag of carpet trimmings from one of the rooms in
Jesus
Graceland.
Christ.
Like he had like snuck in a pair of scissors, and when no one was looking, he trimmed like some little bits of fibers from the carpet and put them in a plastic bag. And he was like showing me this, like I was going to be impressed.
He's ramping up to a murder.
Look what I did.
He's preparing for his transformation.
Maybe that's what's happening. It's like all those people who should be Elvis impersonators just going around going and boring people in malls turn into psychopaths. Like maybe that's the evolution. It's like everyone back in the 90s were still in like the pupil stage of Elvis impersonator before they turned into just psychopaths.
Jesus Christ. Just the idea of a pupating Elvis is now embedded in my head. I'm going to have so many fucking weird dreams when I finally get some sleep again. Oh,
pupating Elvis would be a good name for a band.
God, it is. It also makes me want to get on one of those AI image creators and just see what the horror of that is. Oh, Jesus. All right. Yeah. I'm going to get some sleep.
All right. Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you liked it, leave a review.
Yeah.
Leave us a comment. Like it if that is what you're listening to it on. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes.
Contact us on social media at The Save State, or email us at thegmailpodcast@gmail.com. The Save State Pod.
Yes, The Save State Pod.
At The Save State Pod. Email us at thesavestatepodcast
@gmail.com.
And also our YouTube channel, which is just The Save State Podcast.
Tube. Yes.
No. Nope. Just that.
And,
yep. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Whatever this has been.
Yes.
Bye.
Oh, God.
All right.
Hoorah.
Good morning, save state.
Whoa, what? Get my hand off my willy. I'm up. Don't quit. You gotta knock first.
What? Okay. That's not where I was going with that.
I don't know. I'm still having coffee.